Let's rock and roll.
And we are recording. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Sexually Speaking, here with myself, Keisha Clark, and the amazing Rhonda Burns.
Hello.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome back if you joined us last week or the week before. If this is your first time to join us, again, welcome, and we'll tell you just a little bit about Sexually Speaking. You've obviously read the little short kind of summary when you signed up to be on the guest list, and thank you for doing that. And so just to kind of bring us all together energetically in this particular episode, Sexually Speaking is a show all about celebrating the sex of everything. And we have kind of put our little tagline together. We're having unconventional conversations to unfuck your life. So right off the bat, if you have any squeamishness about intense words or words that have been made to be wrong words, there's a little bit of charge going on. If that's the case, please know that we do the unfiltered thing here, as Rhonda likes to say, hashtag unfiltered. So if any of that is creating a charge for you, that would be a possibility for us to play with, and we would love for you to let us know, and we will be happy to facilitate you on air. You don't have to come on and be live and speak with us.
Right.
But if that or anything comes up as we're talking during any of the shows, or if you have something in between shows, you can always email us. But let us know. We would love the opportunity to really assist you in removing the charge around whatever is keeping you from having all of the ease and the joy that you could possibly be having for you, and with your body and in your life. And that is part of where Sexually Speaking came from. We talk about courageous conversations, we talk about intimate conversations, and we're talking about unconventional conversations. And my sister goddess and I, we love to celebrate all things sex, and we do see the sex of everything. And that's part of where this was born of, is how can we bring that energy and really, it's not a specific singular energy that we are referring to as sex. It's really a collage of energies, this beautiful kaleidoscope of energies. And it doesn't happen the same way for any two people, and we know that. And so when we bring things into our words, we're able to, many times, we're able to find a way to express and to receive the energy that maybe we didn't really have the awareness of before. And this is my co-pilot, Lily, for any of you who are hearing her. She has a tendency to get a little bit vocal when the energy starts moving. So she is doing her part to move some energy and being a contribution that she bees, as we say. So let's let folks know a little bit about you, Rhonda, because I'm yapping my head off over here.
I was just looking, I look a little tired today. I guess I'm like, okay, body, what do you know that like, what do you require? So, hey, everybody, welcome. So grateful to have you all here. Gosh, who am I today? Like, seriously? As I rebrand my business and rebrand the way I do things, I've had to really look at identifying for the world what that is. And every day it's different. So today, like, I'm a playmate. I'm a lover. I love to help change people's perspectives. Let's call it a clarifier, an illuminator, but for the purposes of this this space here, I'm a curious one. Like, I'm willing to like look at anything, because the more we're willing to ask questions and look at things, the easier things can change. And I am all about ease. I'm all about fun, and I'm all about change. Change is one of my favorite things, and I know it scares a lot of people. So that's it in a
We,
nutshell. Yeah,
we like that change thing.
change thing.
It's actually quite fun for us. So.
It is. Yes. How about you? Who the heck are
Woo,
you?
who the heck am I? I'm Keisha Clark, and I am a radio show host. Did you mention radio show host?
No, I forgot.
I'm a radio show host. I am a body work facilitator, coach, transformative agent, and empowerment agent, change agent, a catalyst, and somebody who can easily ruffle the feathers of the mainstream. And I'm okay with that. And I'm becoming more okay with that by the day as we're doing some fun things here. And I have about 25-ish or so years of experience in the field of hands-on body work. And in the last 4 to 5 years or so, I've added a lot of the work that I do that is not necessarily visible work. We refer to it often as energetic work. And so I love to bring people new awareness, to facilitate people into new awareness. And I'm also loving this shifting of perspective. One of the things that I used to say a lot, and I find myself, it's kind of coming back up, is perspective is everything. And I noticed that depending on where I'm willing to see something from is going to determine what can become available to me. So I'm loving playing with that. And I know that when you can shift your perspective, when you can broaden your perspective, when you can kind of let go of what keeps parameters on what you're willing to know, you can actually have and play and be and choose a whole lot bigger.
Absolutely.
And it looks like whatever it looks like for each of us at each moment. And so there's no right way to do this. There's no wrong way to do this. And I love being a facilitator of that. So today on Sexually Speaking, we are talking about use your words. And it's kind of interesting because we do talk, you'll hear us say a lot, everything is energy. And for this episode, what we really wanted to play with was, what is it about having conversation that we let stick us and stop us from actually expressing what we truly desire? There's a few parts in that. And for the first one, that is really a biggie for me, I don't know about anybody else, is that sometimes I get the awareness that I haven't even really gotten clear with what I truly desire. So I wonder, in terms of my life, in terms of what is pleasurable for me, in terms of what I desire to create with a person or a group of people or a project. So I find myself stopping and going, oh, I haven't even gotten clear. What do I truly desire here? And Rhonda Burns, my sister,
taking notes, I'm listening too.
She did a fabulous show just last week, I believe. It was called How Do You Eat Your Ice Cream Cone?
Oh yeah, that was so fun.
And you touched on this as well, because in the course of your playing with the energy that was showing up, which was really interesting, by the way,
yes.
It really kind of got to that space of, what are you hungry for and what do you truly desire? So that's a part of this. And then there's also how do we express that? How do we say those words? Because sometimes these words are really intimidating words that we don't have these kind of like places that we can play with the languaging of certain things, especially when it comes to things about our body and the things that describe what is pleasure for us and what could be pleasure for us and what we would like to explore to see if it's pleasurable for us. So that's what we're going to play with today on Sexually Speaking.
So I have a story. Well, I have a story. It's not really a story. It's my life. And so for those of you who know me, this is going to be like, she's full of shit. And for those of you who don't, you might believe it. But there was a really long time in my life that I actually didn't use my voice. It's so funny for me to say. So I'm aware of this energy, not just in pertaining to sex and this conversation we're having, but in general. Like, I grew up in a family where I was very much a possession. Like, I wasn't an individual. I was told where to go, when to go, be seen, not heard, all of that. So for me, in my reality, in my world, in my universe, it wasn't actually safe to express myself. Sound familiar for anybody? So I'm aware of all of even as adults, right? Logically, we're adults and we know that that's not actually true, but somewhere in our bodies and in our cellular memory and in our worlds individually, there is an element of it's not actually safe to express ourselves. So I just want to invite each and every one of you, no matter where you are in your life, where you are in the world, I would like to invite you into yourself and to just address those places and spaces within you that might still have that point of view that it's not safe to express, that it's not safe to have a voice or to use it. And I'm just going to let you know that's actually not true. And there are times when I do have to keep my mouth shut in certain situations. There's an awareness of I need to keep my mouth shut right here. But internally, I know that my voice matters and there is strength and power and potency and inspiration in it. And so I had to do the work for me. So what do I want you to know? That no matter what you've got, what's gone on for you in your life, where you've been, what's happened to you, etc., your voice absolutely imperatively matters. And your ability to express your wants and needs and wishes and desires is absolutely imperative. And we're going to help you start to unlock that if you're willing to trust you and allow us to just assist you in that. Because there was a time, like I said, and now you can't shut me up. So things are changeable, and it doesn't have to take a long time, and it doesn't have to be hard. So hopefully that helps.
Amen. Yeah, I love that. And so it doesn't have to show up as you knowing like to the nth detail. Like, I want a taffeta covered pillow, and I want satin brocade rope, and I want, a vase of roses to the left, and I want lilies on. It doesn't have to be that, okay? We can leave some of the energies for the universe to kind of fill in and show us how magnificently it can show up. Yeah. This is really about what is it that we would like to begin to play with that maybe we've not let ourselves play with before, and are you willing to speak it into existence? I love the word spellcaster. Now, I love to play with the energy of words. So if any of you who don't know me yet, I love to play with the energy of words. I'm one of my first and fast references is kind of my go-tos is Etymology Online, because I love to see like what was the energy of the word that I'm playing with, or the words that I'm playing with, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, and what could I find about, even before that, and what happens to words when they are translated from one language to another is also intriguing to me. So there is this beautiful wealth of possibilities that are contained within the words, and when we are expressing what we like or what we don't like or what we desire or what we're curious about, the way we are speaking can actually create very different results. If we're willing to say very specific things about something we desire, we get a different result than if we're saying, oh, we could just play with that for a while, or, or rather not saying anything at all. So yeah, when I was not very quiet as a child. I know that might be hard to imagine. And I was very curious, and it was just my nature to have conversation, and whether I was talking to a person or a dog or a tree or a butterfly, it didn't really matter. So what I can say, however, is that something I experienced quite a bit was because I was so expressive and rather boisterous in much of my expression, there was a lot of that attempt by a number of the adults in my world to tone it down, quiet it down, turn it down, turn it off in some cases. And so there was that sort of like, oh, well, if I get too loud, that's a wrongness, or if I ask too many questions, that's a wrongness, or I'm not supposed to talk about for what was for me the really obvious things in the room, right? And how many of us as kids were so aware of what was going on, whether we cognitively knew it or not. Yep. We were so aware of what was going on, and often it was us that kind of said something, a lot of times not even if we meant to say it. We were just expressing the energy that was showing up, and then we received an unkindness for that.
Yeah. Kids speak to the elephant in the room that nobody else is willing to speak to, because they're like, there's an elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Like, and yet we make kids, and we were made very wrong for it. Exactly.
Yeah. So if you've ever allowed that to stop you, if you've ever or if you have been using any of those conditionings or those memories or those entrainments to keep you at a certain containment in your willingness to ask a question or express something for yourself, would you be willing to choose beyond that today
Yep.
for this conversation? And you don't have to say anything out loud for the time that we're visiting today. Just really allow yourself to explore that. Where are those places that you've been stopping yourself, that you've created thresholds that you won't cross or that you haven't yet crossed because of what you received as a child? So everywhere you've not allowed yourself to really have your own words and really know the words that work for you, is that something that you'd be willing to play with more now?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
How cool is that?
How cool is that?
So yeah. So what are some words? Oh, you got something coming up?
No, when you guys see me, I'm taking notes. It'll help us kind of in our email to you, just some reminders, some highlights. And as you were talking, and it goes back to initially when you mentioned like not really identifying what your desires are, what do you really want? And I just jotted down like something that we'll play with is, what do you want to say?
Yeah.
Like, what would you like to say that perhaps you haven't been willing to acknowledge that it's unsaid or that you haven't felt safe to say? And so, again, this is not about necessarily always implementing as it comes up, but just to jot down. And this is what we would call exercises or homework or home play. Because when you can get them into your cognitive awareness and you can start to notice, that's when the change really does start to take place. Is, okay, so what would I like to say that's never been said, that if I said it or expressed it could unlock XYZ infinitum, So I was just jotting that down. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So since we call this show Sexually Speaking,
Yeah.
let's talk first about in an intimate sort of way, in the relationship with ourselves. What are some of the things that you find or that maybe you've discovered that you are able to say to yourself now? Is there something that you have discovered for your own, Rhonda, that you hadn't been willing to express to you that perhaps now is changing?
It's so funny, like the word that popped in, we were talking about it the other day when we played together, is the see you next Tuesday word. And again, I spelled it out first because it's going to piss some people up. See you next Tuesday. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you don't, okay. So that word, it's so funny. There's a lot, but that word is what popped front and center because the word lights me up. It makes me happy. There's a lightness to it. And I also know the original origin of the word. And friends, I'm going to say it now. So if you want to go la, 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 or whatever, like I'm going to say the word cunt. C-U-N-T, cunt. There was a time that I would hear that word and my skin would cringe and I would be like, don't say, oh my God, that's awful. Which was actually everybody else's point of view about that word and how bad it is and how awful it is and how naughty it is and blah, 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 blah. And actually, friends, it's one of my favorite words.
Yeah, I love that word.
Now, I'm very aware of how it affects people. In fact, there was a reality show that I caught, and they were talking about that. And I could see the divisiveness of that word and how one faction was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. That's so awful. It's coming out of your mouth. And I could see the power of the person that was speaking it, and she knew what it really meant, and she knew what it was for her, and it was not a derogatory term. So, yeah, that word just popped in, and there you go. So stir it up, stir it up, stir it up.
And I think we have a whole show coming just on that word alone.
Oh, yes.
And the power and the potency within the energy of that word and the origins of that word again. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So now that is a word that is actually empowering for you.
Yeah. And
wow.
It was a really great, for those of you who didn't hear me on my radio show, my son, who was 10 at the time, came to me one day and said, hey mom, what's a cunt? And I just giggled internally, and we had a conversation about how it's used, how people perceive. Like, I had a very empowering, enlightening conversation with my 10-year-old, and he will use it properly and correctly. So again, most parents would chastise their kid or make them wrong, or where did you hear that, or don't you ever let me, like, it was a completely unconventional conversation. And those are the ones that I love having every single day. So yes, I love that word. Enough about me. Like, Keisha, how about you? Are there words or
Well,
conversations
that one
yourself?
was one for me too.
Yeah.
And then there was, interestingly, as vocal as I am in my life, in my everyday, just the way I am, there was a time that it was really challenging to broach the conversations with my partners. I would have one at a time. So I said plural.
Darn. Okay.
Just a little, unless that changes, I don't know. But
anything is possible.
I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised. And it was really challenging for me to let myself go to that space to be what we call vulnerable, the V word, and really ask for what my body liked and what I enjoyed to play in the energy of. And so it was, for me, it showed up in like asking for specific things that brought pleasure, or I could let people know what didn't bring pleasure. Right. I didn't have as much hesitation with that. But there was this obstacle that I created, this hesitance that I had to asking for what I desired. And I noticed just recently that there's still a little bit of that lingers. And when I really just let myself be with the energy of what would it be like to be in that moment. Thank you, Lily, for moving energy.
Yes.
What would it be like to be in that moment? There is this sense of, am I trusting me to create those relationships, to create those conversations with people who I'm willing to be aware of are actually willing to have them?
Yeah.
And so there's a few places it's like it was a sort of a note for me about my awareness, my willingness to trust what I'm aware of and what I know, and then my willingness to actually say the words. So there's a kind of a fine line, I think, too, here, because a lot of us are also aware that the whole talking dirty thing can be very exciting to some people.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, that's really hard to say.
Yeah.
So what is that energy? There's a vulnerability in it, and there's also a willingness maybe to be that energy for you or with someone else.
Yeah.
To be the giver of those words,
yeah. Yeah, what I'm perceiving is a lot of times in those situations, so many of us are control freaks, or we are fearful of not getting our needs met, or not getting that wish fulfilled, whatever we're asking for, or being judged by asking for, right? Like, there's all the underlying components to that conversation with someone. And so what I know, because I was very fearful, right, of being judged. I was very fearful of, somebody saying no to me or not liking me, and fill in the blanks. There is such power, people, in speaking words. Like, if I have a want, if I have a desire for something, and I speak it into existence, whether or not someone else can or will fulfill that for or with me, just the power in the words being spoken opens up so much energy and awareness and more power and more authority for myself. Even if somebody says, I'm sorry, Rhonda, I can't do that for or with you, it just empowers me to say, oh, guess what? I didn't spontaneously combust. I haven't died. I could be mortified if I get to choose how to be with that. Does that make sense, Keisha?
Oh, it totally does.
Just speaking the words, people, can change everything.
Yeah. There is such a freedom.
Yes.
And that's what and so here's an opportunity for us to do maybe some home play. And I am curious, for those of you who are live on the show, was this anything that was ever offered to you? Did you have someone in your life that you could have these conversations with and talk
Yeah.
about different scenarios with, and actually ask questions about what you were curious about. I'm just curious. You can enter that in the chat as a public comment, or you can enter it as a private comment to just the panelists, which would then Rhonda and I can see that.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, is that something that you had available to you as a child or as a teenager or a young adult even? You know, there is something about the willingness to say the words, the willingness to speak what is true for you.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of us aren't, ooh, that's an interesting energy that kind of popped in. When I say speaking what is true for you, for me, that's not really about telling people your truth as much as it's about being present in a moment and actually just offering the information that you're aware of, or offering what it is you desire or are curious about.
Right.
And there's two very different energies that creates and that comes under. So a lot of us kind of get pushed, I think, to speak our truth. And really that requires that we have some conclusion, and it also requires that we have an investment, that people buy our truth.
Right.
So I'm inviting everybody who's listening to this conversation to give that some consideration, really, if you would be willing to look at that for you. Did you learn to put your words out into the room and expect everyone to agree? Or did you have that environment that you could actually ask a question and then allow for people to have a conversation about it, whether that was one person or 5 people or 100 people? How did you learn to use your words? How did you learn to present your words? Yeah. And if you learned to proclaim your words with your words and not be open to receiving the awareness from what it is you were saying, would you be willing to look at a different possibility?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to actually be asking questions of yourself and others? Yeah.
Yeah, with that, there's an energy in that of what you just spoke to, Keisha, about proving. When we have to speak our truth, it's about having to defend even our mere existence for many, or to prove that we're here, we're valuable. And so, friends, what if you didn't have to prove anything to anyone, even to yourself? What if proving is a lie, and it's actually it's a construct that keeps us in this fight, this need to one up? I can't even describe it. I'm just aware of the energy. So everything that is, even though I don't have a word for it in this moment, I'm willing to identify that it's there, and that I can choose to let it go and choose something different now. Because when I will speak for myself, when I find myself going into a situation and I start to feel the need to prove myself, I know that that's a lie. And that's probably, I'm aware of somebody else's maybe insecurity or a lack of something, or I know I'm a very powerful and potent person, that I have tools and tips and techniques and processes, and that I don't have to prove my existence to anyone. I really don't. But I didn't always feel that way. I didn't always know that. It was a process for myself. But I will tell you that my energy levels, my personal well-being, my mental well-being, my happiness, my joy, everything increases exponentially when I stay out of defense and proving.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's exhausting to have to prove anything.
Yeah.
I wonder how scientists do it. Having to prove their theories. I'd be like, I need a nap.
I know. I'm always like, well, we just know this. Do we have to prove it?
Like,
Does it require?
I'm tired reading your theory. I'm tired. Oh my God, I can't do it. Science is one of my least favorite. Big surprise, right?
I love that, right?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So what if we did we've not completed our commercials, so we don't have all of that set up yet. So what if we did a little stretch break, take a moment and just kind of move your body and see where this is landing?
And absolutely. And I'll just invite all of you just to exactly hey body, I just talk to it. Hey, how you doing? I have tightness in my lower back. Cool. Is that mine? Does that belong to me? And also I just invite you guys to breathe. Like really be conscious of your breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. The more oxygen we can move through our bodies, that's what we tend to do in society is we tend to not breathe. We hold our breath or we do really shallow breathing. And it's amazing that just incorporating more breathing, deep breathing into our bodies, what it can open up and just be aware of how your body feels. If you want to stand up and, do some figure eights with your hips or bend over, just thank you, body, for being here. Thank you, body, for never leaving me, for being with me every single day that I've been on this earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Guys, the more gratitude you can have for your body, it's mind-boggling what can take place, what can show up, what can be created. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yes. We look like Muppets when we do that.
I make a lot of
Remember
noise.
Muppets?
There's something about making noise that really helps. Oh, I'll sit in my office and do the funniest things. That's for me to know and you to not find out.
Stay curious, people. Well, I love what you said, that the breathing, how often are we like choking ourselves because we won't speak?
Yep.
And then the choking compounds that we can't speak, when we're suffocating ourselves. And it's like, I love that that's a part of this whole, the willingness to express, the willingness to use your words,
Yep.
is that it just the choice, just in the choosing to open your mouth, bring the air through it, and form the word, whether that's please or thank you or will you dance with me or can I hold your hand or would you mind rubbing my shoulders or would you like a glass of wine? Whatever those words are, they don't have to be this big, monumental, really like multisyllabic, impressive kind of word. What if it's just hi?
Here's a 2-letter word
Oh.
that so many people, and what just came in was in dangerous situations, men and women, but more so women who are taken advantage of. No. Friends, I could not use that word for a really long time. The ability to say no, or
That's a great
no, or
point.
no thank you, or fuck no. Like that's 6, right? But no, 2 letters, it's astounding to me and it saddens me. I'm like really aware of all the sadness around that. That 2-letter word,
Wow.
how difficult it is for many people to say. So everything that is, and
Wow.
every lifetime I'm aware of that we were not allowed to say no, whoever we are, male, female, it doesn't matter, man, women, child, all of it. I'm just going to acknowledge all of that. And I'm going to, on behalf of everyone and everything that I'm aware of and everything that I'm not aware of, on all of our behalves, I'm going to obliterate the silence and the silencers on that word. And that when you are ready to use that word for whatever reason, there's no reason necessary. When you're ready to use it, it's yours to use.
Yeah.
I invoke that authority. I just do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Holy smokes, where'd that come
Woo!
from? Like, I'm getting a little weepy. Okay, cool.
What's really cool is I see, as you were talking, I got the sense of when you're willing to say yes to you, you can say no. And when you're willing to say no to what doesn't work for you, you have a lot more that you can say yes to.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the hardest words to say, whether you are speaking to, in a casual situation or whether you are in the moment of really heated, hot, full-on copulation with a lover or about to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the most difficult words we can say, yes or no.
Yeah.
Just those little words. So how amazing is it that in those words is really a universe of possibilities for you, for each of us.
Yeah.
That's potent.
It is. And I'm just aware, and again, y'all know me, former perfectionist, control freak of magnitude, working on, lessening the grip in many areas, understanding the capacity in that. But it's like when we are fearful of being judged as not good enough, not perfect, or, wanting to be liked, all the stuff that goes into that, that little word just can trip us up so poorly. And it can get us into some really difficult, dangerous, scary situations. And I been there, done that. I will tell you, being on the other side of it and now fully harnessing words and utilizing them, I got no problem saying no. I really, and I get what comes at me when I say no to others and they're not okay with that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't impact me because I've done the work, because I've used my words and I've gotten better at it and I've gotten more strength for myself from using it. It gets easier. It really does.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is that being willing to receive what your words create, I think, is another part of this. Let's definitely play with that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I get that that's something that a lot of us are kind of bracing for or resisting having, is what could we be creating with our words from the space of our awareness, from like on purpose, because it's something awesome. And even if we're having words or saying words that may not be the most comfortable, like what comes to mind is those moments when you're in different relationships, like whether it's talking to your children or your spouse or your parents, your neighbor, your coworker, those moments that something is obviously not really resonating the same way for the parties involved. Mm-hmm. And there is something required to explore that. It's like, okay, so either how do we do this together, or how do we want to do this not together for this moment? And it's like in those moments, yes, it's really tense, it's really frustrating, there's fatigue, there's angst, there's whatever that gets triggered, or activated. And could we be willing to know and be aware of and choose what our words are going to create even in those situations?
Right.
And are we, I think, I wonder, whoever's playing with us live, if you'd like to enter this in the chat, are we actually do we create a greater resistance to having those conversations where our words could create something amazing?
That's a good question.
Like, is that something that we are conveniently keeping ourselves from creating? That's really interesting.
It is. What is that energy? Cool. So everything that is, I'm just going to acknowledge you. Hello.
Yeah. It's like this sort of resistance to seeing really how brilliant we are and how much enjoyment we could be having with ourselves, with each other. And I kind of get the sense that there's some of that vulnerability and that trust that plays into that. Almost like we don't want to be proven wrong, that our conversations are going to be difficult and relationship has to be difficult and life has to be a struggle and blah, blah, blah. Because if we actually spoke our words and created brilliance and beauty and ease and joy for us and with those that we're co-working with, then what would we have to acknowledge? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And for myself, oh my gosh, there's so much. So just broaden out, please, so I can find a thought, one coherent thought that I could speak that would make some sense. So my platform, like everything that I'm about, is that I know, beyond anything I know, is that we are individually, uniquely, overly qualified, more powerful, potent, and capable of having and doing and being anything we desire. Like I know that now. I didn't know that for many, many, many years. And there is no situation, there is no conversation, there is no experience that I could put myself in now that I could not get myself out of, that I could not create greater, like because I know who I am, what I'm capable of, who I'm about, what I'm equipped with, and that I'm also universally supported in this world and beyond. I can't even see, right? There's this knowing, but it wasn't always that way. But now, so in terms of like conversations and creation, even if I put my foot in it, which I'm really good at, because when you have no filter and shit just flows out of your mouth, like I put my foot in it a lot. And you know what? It's okay, because I know that it does create. And I can tell when it creates greater, and I can tell when it creates contraction, and I know what to do from that step forward. Like that, and again, it's because I've owned that I am a powerful, potent, authoritative source for my existence here, and I'm universally supported. But so many of us don't know that, and so we fearfully and trepidatiously move through the world like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't want to piss anybody off. I don't want to make waves. I don't want anybody to see me. Like, it's all of that because we're living in fear and victim and whatever all that shit is that I'm aware of right there.
And I love the irony of like, you can't not piss somebody off.
Somebody's always going to get pissed off.
It's like the nature of energy. It's just, it's not going to like bring, adoration from every single organism that it meets, know? And so it's kind of interesting that we want to convince ourselves that it's possible, but it's this sort of invention that we buy into, and so for me, it is very true. You can't please all of the people all of the time. And in most cases, you cannot please all of the people that you're dealing with.
The only people, I'm going to invite you, tell you folks, I'm going to tell you. No, I'm going to invite you. Much kinder. What if you just worried about you? Like, what if you just worried about pleasing you? Like, what if you just made you happy and chose what brought you joy? Oh, then that would be selfish. Talk about a word that cuts them off at the seams. The minute you do something for you and somebody judges you as selfish, we stop doing it. What the hell is that creating?
Is that why we don't ask for what we desire?
Perhaps. One possibility. So all of you selfish bitches and bastards in hiding who are too afraid to be called selfish, selfish. I'm going to invite you to come out of fucking hiding now. God, I'm getting a little potent. Ringing some bells, poking some bears.
Go,
I'm gonna
sister.
Yeah. Selfish. It's a 7-letter word. Selfish. I am selfish. I can be selfish. I got no problem with it. If that's what you want to deem it or qualify it or yes, I can be totally selfish. But I guarantee you, I'm aware of what I'm creating. I'm aware of what's necessary and required. And people who know me, they know me.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
So, okay, off the soapbox now. Go ahead.
Love that. Now, anybody can on the live show. So in this moment, if you're listening on the replay, this won't quite work for you. But if you have a question, please type it in. You have a way that you can type it so that only Rhonda and I will see it. Yep. And you can bring up your options either on the chat or you can type it in the Q&A. And if you just roll your cursor onto the screen anywhere, the little bar will pop up at the lower portion of your screen that gives you the option to do that. Yeah. And I will get better at saying that much earlier in the show.
Cool. And I will help you as well. And so I'm going to, if you are live, are there in your knowing right now, and this, I will put this in the email afterwards as home play. But if you have any words right now that upset you, like piss you, like see you next Tuesday, if you have a word that you absolutely, it makes you cringe, you hate it, you despise it, that's one way we would love your feedback. Or is there a word that you would like to utilize more, but haven't been willing to? Okay, so relax. So relax is the word. So you hate that word. Why? Because people tell you to relax? She hates the word. Cool.
Awesome.
So awesome. What is that? So everything that is, what would you do? Yes. So do you want to play with that, Keisha? You want to bat it around?
Yeah. So what is all of the meaning that's been designated to that word?
Yeah, and like I hear, what does it say about me when people tell? So I'm going to put this in my. It's telling people, yeah. So like somebody tells me, Rhonda, to relax. Underlying is like, well, what are they saying about me, right? What does that mean about me if they're telling you to shut, right? So it's like, what does it mean about me is what I hear when somebody tells me to relax. Well, what the fuck are you, like, what's wrong with me, right? We automatically go to what's wrong with me or, so, yeah, go. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's, I was kind of getting that. There's a real intensity around, and with it's telling me to stop talking. So it almost sounds like what you're hearing is shut up and not relax.
Shut up already?
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
That you've got those two words, because really shut up is kind of the opposite of, well, not the opposite, but it means something very different than relax, right? For me. So where did you learn that as a shut up?
Or whatever else you took it to mean.
Yeah, or whatever else, because there's quite a few little intensities in there. So where did you learn that?
She said the dirty, evil eyes when she said it. They don't do it twice. Okay, now here's a really cool tool, friends, if you want to jot this one down. When somebody says something to you and you get a trigger reaction or you get that, oh, whatever it is for you, there's a couple of things to do. If you're willing to play with the tool from Access Consciousness that we've learned, it's called interesting point of view. So in your head, you could say, interesting point of view, they have that point of view, interesting point of view, I have this point of view of this reaction. That's one. But here's a great question you can ask to the person that's delivering that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Like ask them. Ask them what their intent, because usually when we speak things, most people don't have a clue what they're speaking or why they're saying it. We're on such an autopilot response that people just spew stuff. And so when you actually put a question in their universe from true curiosity, it makes them stop and go, what did I just say? What did I actually mean? And then it might actually open some dialogue and you might actually get some awareness and. Yeah. You see?
Yeah.
Cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
And for me, what's coming up is, so what if you played with that in different scenarios? Like, if you're talking in a grocery store with someone and they're like, relax, honey, you got this kind of thing. Or if you're, in your living room with your relatives and somebody's telling you to relax, or if you're in a sort of a different scenario with perhaps a lover and they say the word relax to you, and they're actually desiring to pleasure you, to offer you joy or something to bring joy. It's awesome to have awareness that that's a buzzword for you. And I think in any of those scenarios, absolutely you could use the question, what do you mean by that? Or, and even own it. This is for everybody, because I do this too. I have certain words that I learned them or I received them in a certain way that they have a little bit of a for me. And so it's interesting when you will ask, and again, that's another form of using your words. Do you mind telling me how you meant to what were you meaning by that? Right. And you can say, I'm kind of taking it this way.
Or I'm confused.
Let me know if I'm wrong or I'm confused, or can you say it a different way? Can you ask the question again, please? Right. Kind of a thing. And see what the person says. Right. And you're doing two things. You're owning what's going on for you, and you're also offering the other person involved a moment to have empowerment for them and have a different awareness. Right. And that's kind of, I like to call it win-win or mutually beneficial. That actually has a lightness to it for me. And seems to open up much more doorways for possibilities to play with.
Yeah, and I just have this scenario, like if it's somebody that says that to you and they're a stranger, like I just have this, so funny. We're at a grocery store and you might seem stressed to somebody, right? And some stranger says to you, relax. Well, you don't know this person, so you may not want to engage them in that dialogue. Totally get that. That's where the interesting point of view in your head. Or you could just simply look at them and go, I'm totally relaxed. Right? Because what usually is happening in that moment is their discomfort or their stuff or their awareness that they're judging it should be different for you or whatever it is, right? So again, gauge where you are and who you're speaking with. Dialogue may not always be possible. And you could just simply say, well, thanks, I'm totally relaxed, and go on about your day, right? But if it hooks you, if it charges you, if it sticks you, that's where there's judgment attached and you're doing something with it. And friends, we want to be free. We want freedom, we want ease, we want clarity, and that's where the interesting point of tool can get you is to the space of allowance, of just being like, no big deal. Cool. They have a point of view that I wasn't relaxed. It's not really my point of view. No big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
And let us know if there's still any charge, or if you want to play more with that, or if something else
you could just relax person. Just relax. I'm just kidding. I know this person, so I can totally like. Oh,
yeah, well, she typed it to all the panelists, so yeah.
Lighten up, people. Laugh more. It changes stuff faster than anything.
So here's something I'd like to invite you to begin to play with, and this can be for any scenario. But I am going to kind of challenge you to push the envelope a little bit. And what are some of the things with pleasure that are pleasurable for you, that you're aware of, that you haven't been willing to ask for from a lover? So in the privacy of your own time and home and space, I want to invite you to play this week with asking for what you desire. So if that's, I would love to feel your mouth, fill in the blank. I would love to feel your hands. Would you put your fingers here? Would you apply pressure here? If it's something like that, or if it's something like just being able to say yes, or please don't stop, or can we stop for a moment? What scenarios are you willing to explore, and how much are you willing to ask for? And are you willing to offer information, should you be in those moments with a lover? Is there a value when someone lets you know if something you're doing or choosing or creating or attempting to create with them isn't working? Is there a value for that for you? I know for me there is. Now, sometimes our delivery might not be great. And there's a lot of hormones moving in those moments normally. So if you can, play with interesting point of view and just know that maybe they are not meaning something to have daggers, or anything like that. But so all of those different scenarios that you can come up with and play with, would you practice out loud, letting yourself ask those questions, letting yourself offer those information? Because if something is really yummy for you and you do desire to have more of that, what freedom and what empowerment could be available to you if you were willing to ask for that?
Yeah.
And if something isn't working for you, if something doesn't feel good to you or your body, what empowerment could be available if you were willing to let your lover know that?
Yeah.
And if you're willing to know that for you.
Yeah, and so as a single woman, like I'm not currently engaged in relationship at this time with romantic. So for all you single people out there, what do you do when you're not in that situation? We still have needs, we still have wants, we have still desires. Sometimes just I have a son who lives with me part-time, and I work from home, and I don't have a lot of, unless I'm out in the world, I don't have a lot of physical interaction with a lot of people on a really consistent basis. And sometimes, physical bodies need physical touch. We just do. And so what do you do when you don't necessarily have that available to you? For me, when I start to recognize an energy that my body requires, like my body wants to be held or touched or engaged physically with other bodies, just conversation or laughter. If I look around and I'm sitting alone, like I am in my office, I'm like, okay, universe, who can I run into? Who can I meet this week? Who can I meet today? Ask the universe. Speak the words to the universe, to your God, to your Allah, whatever source, the greater source that we are all part of and in communion with. Could you speak those words into that space and say, universe, could you please bring me someone or someones that could give me a hug, that could shake my hand, that I could have a conversation with, that I could share a beer with, whatever it is. If you don't have someone in your physical proximity, speak it to the universe and watch what happens.
Yeah.
Every time the universe will deliver.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for making that point. I love that.
You bet.
And here's another part of this. Would we be willing to make it never be required that our pleasure has to show up as literally copulation?
Yes.
Could we become more willing to receive the sex of everything? So receive that joy, that spontaneity, that vibrancy, that pleasure, that excitement, that what is that? That trickle of endorphins. Whether you are guided to have coffee or go have a massage or watch a certain TV show or make a sandwich, whatever the guidance is, part of what we desire to be inviting you to more of is really discovering, allowing all of those energies in all of the areas of your life to be receiving that pleasure. And so, yes, what if you were willing first to use your words with the universe?
Yeah.
And what if you were willing to use your words for you and with yourself?
Yeah.
So would you be willing to play with what words have you allowed to stop you? What words have you not been willing to receive the energy of? What words have you created as a way to keep you small and not showing up in your own life? And what words could you be using to absolutely invite more sex, more aliveness, more pleasure, more excitement, more adventure, more discovery into all of your life, as well as into the possibilities of playmates showing up? And if you have a playmate, what could you be creating now with words? Whether you're saying it out loud to them or whether you're speaking it into the relationship, I'll leave that up to you. You can take it in steps if you want. So would you be willing to play with that this week? And I'm really curious to see what shows up. And I would love it if you would let us know. You can always email us at conversationswithkr@gmail.com. I believe that's also on all of our email correspondence, our newsletters. And we are available if you desire to work with us, if you desire to explore more of any of the things we talk about, any of the possibilities we play with, and if something comes up for you as we're talking and it's really more appropriate that you have a conversation with us directly, either one or both, please let us know that. You can also email us at theconversationswithkr@gmail.com. We would love the possibilities to get to play with you and facilitate you to having and celebrating the sex of everything in your life. What could that be creating in your life, in your body, in your business, and maybe even in your bank accounts?
Yeah.
So I don't think we have next week's topic yet, do we?
We don't. And so you'll just have to check the email the day before or the hour before. So we will, again, any questions, any clarity that's required, do not hesitate. I mean, speaking about words today, like use your words for people. If you have something that was unanswered or something that, let us know. We truly desire to assist and support and facilitate freedom and ease and joy. And Keisha and I have worked and played diligently in using our words, and we are linguists and we love words and we know the power that they have and what they can create, and we would love to support you if that's something you desire. So do not hesitate.
Yay! And there's an easy way to play more for free if you like, and that's just come play on our radio shows on a2zen.fm tomorrow morning, which is Wednesday in the States, with Miss Rhonda Burns. Potency is my game.
The title is, excuse me, your victimhood is showing.
I love that.
I wonder what's going to come flying out of my mouth tomorrow morning.
And then on Friday, come play with me on my show, Living Well. Let's see, Rhonda, your show airs at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Eastern, yes.
And my show airs on Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to play this week with me coming out of the closet.
What kind of closet? What closet have you been in? What?
I've been in the psychic closet and the medium closet and all kinds of closets. So how much fun could we have? If you want to call in on the show, I'm going to introduce some of my capacities to the world. And
so you're going to use your voice in a different way.
I'm going to be using my voice, using my words. Yeah.
Yay! Success! Our job here is done. I'm just kidding. Congratulations.
So thank you so much, people. We are excited beyond expression. Sometimes words just don't express the magnitude of gratitude we have. Yes. That you are choosing to play with us, that you're showing up, whether it's on the live show or you're playing with the recordings. Thank you for being a part of this and for choosing to have these conversations. Always let us know if there's more you want to talk about or more you'd like us to be talking about on the shows. We'll be happy to accommodate you with a topic. And in the meantime, what would it be like to be having sex with total ease? And what would it be like to be receiving the joy of the sex of everything? So join us next week for another unconventional conversation to unfuck your lives. And
have an amazing week, y'all. Thank you.
We adore you. And thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Bye.